The Madison Collaborative Ethical Reasoning in Action is a campus-wide project, a program designed to help develop ethical reasoning skills, not just for you as a student, but for me as a faculty member and for all the staff at the university. We're trying to better prepare all of us for the tough choices we will have, the complicated questions that we will face in our personal lives, our professional lives, and as citizens. Let me give you a little bit of background to the Madison Collaborative Ethical Reasoning in Action. A number of years ago, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman wrote a book called On Killing. Dave Grossman became an expert on the strategies and the practices of killing in warfare. Early in his book, he identifies a problem that the U.S. military identified back in the Civil War. After the Battle of Gettysburg, 28,000 rifles were collected from the battlefield. 24,000 of those rifles were still loaded. And of those 24,000, 12,000 were loaded twice or more. Of those 12,000, 6,000 were loaded 3 or more times. One rifle recovered on the battlefield at Gettysburg was loaded 23 times. The question the military faced was, what's going on with these loaded rifles? These were musket-loaded rifles, took time to load, and they were not discharged. The answer the military gave was that in the heart of the battle, even when men's lives were at stake, they did not fire at their enemy. Instead, they postured. They loaded their guns, trying to show that they were engaged in the battle without actually shooting. As time went on, the U.S. military pursued this question of non-firers. They discovered it happened again in World War I. And surprisingly, in World War II, the so-called Good War, the same phenomenon occurred. Only 20% of American soldiers in World War II fired at their enemies. This presents a serious problem for a military. It presents a problem of those persons they have trained not willing to fire at their enemies. What they then did was look into their training process. And I know something about this training process myself because my father fought in World War II. He was a sharpshooter that protected American soldiers as they went on the islands of the South Pacific. He was trained by lying on his stomach and aiming at a target 100 yards away. As a result of their findings in World War II, the U.S. military changed their training plan. They consulted psychologists, and they introduced operant conditioning. Instead of shooting at a target, they had human-formed objects pop up so that soldiers would learn to shoot on reflex, without thinking. The U.S. military solved the problem of non-firers by replacing reflection with reflex. The Madison Collaborative Ethical Reasoning in Action is designed to reverse engineer that process. We are trying to replace reflex with reflection. When we face difficult choices, complicated cases, it's better to think through those cases rather than simply act on reflex. It's better to raise questions rather than simply